Hi guys, I've got Miranda Okazima here. She's one of the Seaflow team members. She's part of the next podcast or episode of the Flow Roll we've got going on at the moment. So I just wanted to introduce her. How you going, Miranda? Good?
Yeah, not too bad. How about you?
I'm very, very good. I understand you're on your lunch break at the moment.
Yes, I work in an office job, and so I had to book a meeting room, clear out my schedule to make sure that I could make it today, and also check it off with the manager. So, all
Well,
good.
I appreciate your efforts in shuffling stuff around to fit this in today. Beautiful.
Thank you.
So whereabouts are you located?
I live and train on the northern beaches of Sydney.
Oh,
So the
beautiful.
gym that yeah, it is. I'm very lucky. I'm born and raised on the northern beaches, and like any true northern beaches person, I can't move away. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was my coming at the
Yeah.
door. I don't know what you want.
You're lucky. It's all approved, so you're all good.
Exactly.
So yeah, you
That's
live
why
in
I did it.
you live in the Northern Beaches, beautiful area of Sydney. How long have you been training for, and what belt are you?
So, as of the 11th of March this year, 2024, I will have been training for 10 years, and
Wow,
I'm a black belt.
wow, super impressive. Yeah. So a female black belt, that's even rarer than a regular male black belt. So it's really cool to have you on the podcast, and hopefully some of the girls watching can draw some inspiration, or at the very least look at you and be like, hey, another girl can do it. Why can't I do it? So what
Exactly.
I always like to ask people. I coach at a gym. It's not my gym. My head coach runs it, obviously. But I like to ask people whenever I meet them, like, what got you into jiu-jitsu? Because it's a super obscure, niche endeavor, and there's a lot of different reasons someone might start training. What personally got you into training all the way 10 years ago?
So at the time, I had just gone through a breakup and moved back into my parents' house, and I was looking for something to keep myself occupied. I used to play quite competitively basketball, and I was looking for something that was sort of similar, but didn't necessarily require such a long commitment, like a
Yeah,
half year or 10-week term. So
yeah,
I was looking around. At the same time, I was also on Tinder, as you do after a breakup, and I was I matched with somebody.
yeah,
Um, and this person invited me to attend the gym or the class that they were teaching, because they
yeah,
were a purple belt at the time. So I was in my yes phase, so I said yes, and I went and walked in the door, and I fell in love with the sport straight away,
yeah,
and look back.
yeah. It's it has a knack of doing that to people. No matter what reason kind of draws you in, other reasons keep you there generally, and yeah, so it's super interesting. So, how many girls were training when you started? Like, obviously, jiu-jitsu is getting bigger now, and more women and people in general are getting involved. But back then, I wouldn't have imagined there would have been too many female training partners for you to roll around with.
No, there weren't
Yeah,
any girls at the gym at that time.
yeah, you kind of have to be the tip of the spear and kind of be that girl, so that when other girls come in, they're like, there's another girl here I can
Yeah,
train. And
and that's exactly what happened. So one of the men that were training there at the time, he told his friend who had also expressed interest in training that, look, now there's a lady there, so you can come
yeah,
as well. But
yeah,
I'm not lady size. I'm almost 6 foot, so it's not
yep,
really as I guess intimidating to walk into a gym as
yeah,
a taller person in
yeah,
this really physical environment as it would be for a smaller person.
for sure, for
But I'm
sure.
still a big fan of not like every single body type, height, or
Yeah,
shape or weight has their advantages. So even if you
yeah,
are a small person, you can go in and still cause trouble. So
100%. Yeah. Did any of your prior basketball experience, do you find there was any layover, even just the skill acquisition, understanding that things take time and it's hard? Or I came into like jiu-jitsu from soccer. So like for me, there wasn't too many overlapping factors, but it was interesting that in the sense that I left a team sport and become part of a bigger team, even though it's like a solo sport. So, yeah, I was just kind of curious as to whether your time in basketball or any of your experiences made the position easier or even harder or anything like that.
I don't think so. I wish I could have that sort of. I wish I had at the time had that Michael Jordan mentality of going in and like perfecting what it is that I want to
Yeah,
get better at. But I could never do that. Same as I have trouble with like studying for
yeah,
school or work or anything. I just can't study, so I have to just go in and be intuitive, or
yep,
there's another word that I want to say. It's instinctive.
yeah,
So a lot of what I do is instinctive, but also relies on the muscle memory from the
yeah,
classes that I've been to over the years. And I don't think there's any parallels in terms of basketball and jiu-jitsu in terms of the way that the movements are performed.
yeah,
Certainly in camaraderie and working together and teamwork and understanding how different people need to be coached differently and
yeah,
that sort of stuff. But I was never a jiu-jitsu, sorry, I was never a basketball coach, just a
yeah,
player. But I mean, seeing the different coaching styles out of basketball and then
for
seeing them,
sure.
it's probably like the closest parallel that I could come
Yeah,
up with right
yeah.
now. But
It's you would probably experience the same thing, but when you see new people come to a gym, it's super clear when someone has done some form of sport before and when they haven't. Um, so, like, just the pure coordination things, there's some people when they come through, it's very, very clear that they've never really had to kick, throw, catch type of stuff, jump, run. And then there's people who have been doing it all their lives. And it's interesting to see how the two different types of people approach the early part of their training and going forward and feeling comfortable and stuff like that.
I'm going to contradict you there because there's a really annoying subset of brand new white belts that come in, and these are usually the females that have done some sort of dancing or yoga or Pilates
Yeah,
or like a dancing or movement type sport or gymnastics, and they come in and
yeah,
they can do it straight away. And I look at them and I just feel so frustrated that I couldn't be that person because you see
yeah.
them like you got the moves. They know how to
I,
move their body. They know where everything is. Like I don't have very good proprioception, so like I've got
yeah,
my hips going everywhere, but they're just like short, sharp, tight. Like,
yep.
it's very annoying.
I teach private lessons to two contemporary dancers,
Mm.
and they have no intention of joining classes, right? So they just do the private lesson once a week. They do it with each other. But I chucked them on the mat and I was like, oh, let's start with some forward rolls and some backward rolls and some hip escapes. And they just nailed them all perfectly. Like when people come in, the hip escape is generally really, really hard for new people to do. It's like they were doing it forever. And it was just super
They're
bizarre to
very
see,
annoying.
like I said. Yeah, yeah. It's like all of us have to work hard for this shit, but apparently you can do some contemporary dance and then roll in and move around perfectly. So yeah, it's
Or
super interesting.
gymnastics. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, gymnastics, it's a whole nother topic. I've grappled with a guy who's done gymnastics before, and it was like grappling with a chimp. It was it was
Oh,
ridiculous. So
we had a parkour instructor that used to train with us, and
wow.
it was really annoying because I knew he was brand new to the sport, and then he's doing things that people that had been training for years couldn't do. And I was like, "How do you know how to do this? Could you like
Just
just stop? Because you're making me feel bad about myself."
yeah. We've got to start hiding the information from those type of people so they don't progress too fast.
No,
So
no. There's no gatekeeping.
on the topic of your jiu-jitsu, I always like to ask people because people generally their personality comes out in their grappling style or the way they grapple. What is your favorite technique? And what I mean by favorite technique, it doesn't have to be one that you use the most or is your most effective. It could be one that you've hit once in your life and it's the best, or it could be something super flashy, or it could very well be something that you use all the time and that's why it's your favorite. But in general, if you had to pick one technique, what do you reckon your favorite one would be?
I love arms. So arm
Yep.
bars are my favorite thing in the entire world when it comes to
Yep.
jiu-jitsu. And
Yep.
that's from anywhere. So Um, closed guard is probably, not probably,
Yeah.
closed guard is my most comfortable position. And arm bars from closed guard are just, they're just nice.
Yeah.
But when you get an arm bar from a really fucked up position, that's what makes me really happy. So like you're rolling and all of a sudden you've got this arm and the person's not expecting it because it's such a ridiculous position that it should never work. And then all of a sudden you put it on and they tap and they just go, look at you and go, what was that? And most of the time I just go, I don't know, it came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
so
there's a couple of
my favorite kind of arm bar is the one that just appears.
Yeah, there's a couple of cool little overhook ones you can catch from like some nasty spots. And I don't know, in jiu-jitsu, like one of the most beautiful things you can watch is like that sequence to an arm bar and like the roll through and then the extending of the arm. It looks, to sound like a jiu-jitsu snob, it looks so jiu-jitsu. It just looks so good. With the arm bar, right? So I had this experience and I've spoken to a lot of students about this. The arm bar seems like a technique that is pretty hard to hit early in your jiu-jitsu, and I find a lot of people seem to pick it up towards end of blue, early purple. Was it something that you were having an affinity for pretty early on, or was it something that developed later on in your game? Or
I loved it from the moment that I met it. So it was kind of like, So where closed guard became my favorite sort of just holding position, arm bars also became my favorite just go-to submission. And because I'm one of those people that I like to do what it is that I know, when I felt that sort of, I know this, I'm going to keep going for it. So by doing that, it just kept getting stronger and stronger. The ability to see it got stronger and stronger. And then, of course, down to seeing the armbar where the armbar shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So, from very early on, I loved it. And, I used to do this setup where, textbook white belt, close guard, grab the arm, you go to pendulum, but you fake the pendulum and get the arm bar. That was one of my favorite things to do. And I did that. I hit that so many times, even in competition at white belt. It was just, it was perfect. I remember the Sydney International with the international, like IBJJF, Sydney International in 2015. I just had 3 matches on the day. I forget how I finished off the first girl. Second girl was that fake pendulum to the armbar. And it took a couple of minutes to get there, but with the third match, which was the final match for gold, I hit it in like a minute. So it was like I had to progress through those people to get to the closer to that finish and then just pull it off. So if I had another match, I probably would have gone out in 20 seconds.
So the armbar obviously has been a big technique for you in your jiu-jitsu journey. What do you think, not just necessarily technique now, what do you think is the favorite thing for you about jiu-jitsu now? There's going to be a bunch of things that you probably love about jiu-jitsu. Again, favorite doesn't mean most valuable. What is your favorite aspect? It could be socially, it could be the physical part. What do you think?
So I've got two reasons for loving jiu-jitsu. The first one is more that sort of mindfulness aspect. So going onto the mats, as soon as you step off the mats, you literally cannot think of anything else, otherwise you might die. So I can't, I'm not allowed to, it's not that I'm not allowed to, like you actually cannot think about what's happening at work, what's happening at home.
No.
I got hacked last night. I went to class and couldn't think about the fact that somebody got into my PayPal account and started withdrawing money. Like you can't think about it. So I know. Yeah. So you have to go in and just be in the moment. And so for that hour at a time, you cannot think of any problems or even any achievements or any good things that have happened in your life. You just have to be in the moment. And I think that's one of the more important things for me in terms of jiu-jitsu. And like last night with that situation, I easily could have just gone, you know what, I'll stay home and sort this situation out because it's quite stressful. But I go to jiu-jitsu so that I would come out feeling much better than if I had sat at home sort of wallowing in my pity of being hacked. So,
Yeah, no one would blame you for that. That's yeah, that's a shit situation. But you're 100% correct. It's that meditation aspect of it, super
Yeah,
important. And for people who they might have had a stressful day, that hour of just relief could make the world of difference for people. So it's a very, very
exactly.
good point.
And the second thing that I've forgotten what the second thing was. And the reason I forgot what the second thing was is because I came up with a third thing, and I've got problems.
That's fine. That's fine.
You have to go 1, 2, 3. You can't go 1, 3 and pretend that was your 2. I have to go 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. But yeah, if it pops up to you,
I mean, like there's that like the dopamine aspect of, or
yeah,
dopamine. So you go in and you have a good class and you feel better afterwards, or you go in and that day you happen to be the nail and you still feel better when you come out. So it's I guess that's along the same lines of that sort of mindfulness, but in just a different sort of physical hormonal release kind of thing. But at the same time, having those friendships and those relationships is also important as well. So I'm very good at just keeping to myself and staying at home and just going to work and going home, doing nothing else. But it forces me to go and talk to people, which is definitely a good thing.
Yeah. You're spot on. There's a bunch of it's such a hard question to ask someone what your favorite thing about it is, because literally in that moment you had like 3 things that popped up to your head. So I bet you could go on with more and more and more. But even like I'm a
this podcast is limited in time, so yeah.
I'm a male in jiu-jitsu, so I don't understand the complete experience of a female in jiu-jitsu, but surely it would be very liberating in the sense that you're learning something that everyday people believe isn't for women, or something that women can't do, and helping also bring other girls into the space, because they're completely wrong. Like it's I find it might even lend better to women. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things where society has people in this thinking where if you're this type of person, you can't do this type of activity, and you're a black belt. Like it's almost as high as it gets. So even if it's not necessarily liberating for you, it will be for other women seeing this, because, like I said, lots of girls will go to try and people will be like, well, why are you trying that for? Like, isn't that what dudes do?
Yeah.
Like, or shit like that.
Do you train UFC? No. So actually, your point actually reminded me of what my third thing was going to be, which is that by training jiu-jitsu, you learn a lot of things that help you out in real life, like perseverance, determination. That's like overcoming adversity. So I actually, I'm a goose. So I use that sort of stuff when I've applied for other jobs. I'll talk about the fact that I do jiu-jitsu, and by doing that, I learn perseverance, I learn determination, I learn that grit, I learn that ability to just keep moving forward even when you've got this barrier in front of you. Like, don't stop. So for me, I'm not entirely sure that I have the full female experience of a female in jiu-jitsu because I am the size that I am. But in terms of that perception that women shouldn't be or usually don't, I have there's a gym that opened up near to where I work, and that this gym is a pure fitness gym, but also offer group classes. And one of the group classes that they offer is jiu-jitsu. And so they had their promo people near the train station close to my work. And as I walked past this woman handing out flyers, she was like, oh, here's a free voucher. We have Pilates and yoga. And I know about the gym because one of the people that I know is actually teaching the jiu-jitsu classes there. And I had to, because I was walking with someone that I work with, I had to stop myself from looking at it going, bitch, I train jiu-jitsu. But I mean, that's like she herself, like she had that perception of all the women that I'm looking at now are going to go for the Pilates and the yoga. None of them would be interested in the jiu-jitsu classes that we offer. So that it pissed me off a little bit that she had that mentality, because if our own female people are not going to promote it, how else are we going to get more women in the sport? But I mean, I'm a huge advocate for jiu-jitsu as a sport. I don't really see it as something that I do personally for self-defense. If I found myself in a situation where I felt threatened, perhaps I could use some of my training in that situation to detach and run, because for me, the best way to handle myself in a situation like that is get out of it.
Best self-defense is a fast 40-meter sprint. Like if you can
those two. So but like get away and run as fast as you can. So
that is a very black belt answer. No, seriously, like a blue belt, white belt answer would be, oh, I can't wait. Like
I'll go
yeah.
and choke him out. No, I just want to run. So I mean, I advocate jiu-jitsu as a sport for females to do, for them to have a better understanding of their body, how their body moves and works, and what it's capable of as well. Because one of the things I learned when I first started is, like, I'm not this fragile little thing, or fragile big thing. I'm not this fragile thing. I can do these things that I don't ever think anyone's ever said, oh, yeah, you can go and sweep a 90-kilo man, get on top and choke him out. No one would have ever.
Women give birth. Like, it's like, I can't think of oh, and you're a mother as well.
I have, I've got 2 kids.
Wow. So, see what I mean? So, like, I can't think of a harder physical thing to do on every day. I wake up, and as a man, I'm thankful that I don't ever have to give birth. So if a woman can give birth, there's no reason in hell why they could not start, at the very least, start jiu-jitsu or learn some stuff about themselves like that. So they're all super positive things. And again, like I said, they're very like black belt answers. These are good, because it could be very easy to be like, yeah, I love the idea that I could learn to defend myself against any opponent or whatever, or you could give very cookie cutter answers, but they're realistic answers. And again, they're not answers coming from someone who's 2 days into jiu-jitsu. Someone's been trained for 10 years and they know what they're doing, and they've been in the space for a while. So I'm sure you've got a pretty good idea. So we'll segue from your favorite thing about jiu-jitsu. What do you think the hardest part is? And again, that hardest doesn't have to be a negative. What do you think the most challenging or the hardest part for you is, personally, or people in general, however you feel like answering the question?
I've got a couple of answers, but I'm not going to tell you exactly how many, just in case I lose track.
Go for it.
So, like, for me personally, my competition experience has been, it's not bad, it's not negative, but it's been unusual, because as I've gone up in ranks, the pool of competitors has reduced. So, but so like, women will come in, they'll go to white belt, they'll have a couple one or more competitions if they like it, they'll do more than one. Otherwise, they'll just do one and go, yeah, I've done it, now I don't need to do it again. So I used to be quite frequent, but less now. As I moved up through the ranks, the opponent pool reduced. And so it was harder and harder to find competition matches. And that really was disappointing, because it was like I was keen to compete. And then I'd put my name down, I'd register and sit there for 5 weeks wondering if somebody else was going to register to be with me in the division. And oftentimes I'd get a refund because nobody else would turn up. And, it's just the things that happen to women, and the stages of their life that they go through often can be a barrier to competing at later stages. And so, having had 2 kids and having to juggle family responsibilities, as well as my husband trained, so he was the one that was the guy that from Tinder that introduced me.
So you end up getting married, and it's like super happy and everything's great.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
Thank you. So he's also a black belt. He's a one-stripe black belt. He's still teaching the beginners classes. So he he's responsible for a lot of people actually falling in love with the sport the same way he did with me. And anybody that comes to our gym is super lucky to have Thiago as a teacher, because he's really good at helping people.
What was his name? Feel free to give him a bit of a plug, because obviously the podcast is about you, but he's obviously a big factor in your jiu-jitsu journey. So he's always been your coach, I'm assuming. And
so what I'm about to say surprises a lot of people, but I did only the beginners class for 6 years, and so I got to halfway through my purple belt doing only beginners classes, and then going to competitions with only beginners understanding of moves and that sort of stuff, and still doing well. So while I was in that beginners class for most of it, Thiago was my teacher. And if Thiago wasn't the teacher, if somebody that Thiago had taught was the teacher. So that, I mean, a lot of my game is owed to Thiago and his teachings, which is, I guess I'm his best student.
Yes, I would say you would be smart to give that answer as well.
Maybe not his best, but he's let's call him his little protege.
I don't know either of you too well, but I would argue that you're a woman who's got the black belt. You might very well be I don't know, if I ever run a school one day, the idea of awarding a woman a black belt seems way, way cooler than awarding some 27-year-old athletic psychopath their black belt. So I would say maybe you very well could be his template student or success story. Yeah, that's it. Don't sell yourself short.
So in where we came from to get here is that so the challenges that I have come up in life to continue my jiu-jitsu career have been, work. I'm now in a quasi Asia Pacific level management role. It's all of Asia Pacific except for New Zealand. So I've got quite a lot of responsibility. Wow. I also have 2 kids. I also have a husband that drinks. So over those first 6 years, I had to juggle the care of my eldest daughter with her dad, as well as trying to continue to have a jiu-jitsu journey. After Thiago and I got married, we also had a baby as well. And again, I had to juggle motherhood again after 7 years. So there was a 7-year gap between the kids. So learning how to look after a small child again, as well as navigating work with like childcare duties, as well as making sure that I could fund what I needed to do and pay for all the things that I wanted to do with my job, and making sure that my work was secure, making sure my house is functioning. I'm not going to say tidy, it was functioning.
You got 2 kids, you can have a messy house.
Other problems that contribute to a messy house too. But also, like, Thiago was still training as well. So like juggling that, like who's looking after the kid tonight, and making sure that we had a really well-structured routine. So one of the things that I have to be advocating for the people that I have come up against in training that have since become better friends is when they see that they're on the track to having a baby, if they train, if their partner trains, which often happens, is that they also have a partner that trains or teaches, or they run their own school together or whatever, is making sure that before that baby pops out, they have a commitment with their partner that they're going to share the responsibilities of the child equally. Because if you go into a child rearing environment with, and I'm going to get a bit feminist here, that somebody that believes that child rearing duties belong to the woman, that doesn't fly if you've got a jiu-jitsu competitor or a jiu-jitsu athlete that wants to continue their training. Like, I'm not going to stop training because my kid needs to live. Like, yes, my kid needs to live, but there's 2 parents here at play. So making sure that if a person is going to choose to have a baby, that they have a plan for how they're going to manage the responsibilities associated with their baby and with their partner, so that they continue doing those things that they love or that are important to their life. So, so the difficulty is, making sure that I manage myself at work so that I can leave on time to go to the gym, making sure that my kid is, all the notes are signed, that she's got lunch, and like I have to prepare myself on the weekend for a week of work so that I'm not having to do things last minute, making sure that I don't work late, and making sure that, like, if I do go away, that, everybody still can function inside the house. As well as, I had the opportunity to go to the US in April of last year with work to Salt Lake City, and I was really lucky because I found a gym in the area, packed my geese, and went and trained there while I was there. And I still had, my husband at home, and he's happy to continue looking after the child or children. Looking after the house, still fulfilling his teaching responsibilities as well as his family responsibilities. But there's, the amount of times that you can see where, and not just in the jiu-jitsu community, but in general life, where you see a woman has a baby with a man that she thought was going to be a good father, and then they're not a good father. So the woman takes on the bulk of the responsibility, or you see, like, she decides to, or it's better for their household for her to be a stay-at-home mum. But the thing that is the most frustrating to see is that you're not a stay-at-home mum to be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You be a stay-at-home mother to look after your child while your partner goes to work to earn their salary, or however it works. But after the end of that time where that person is working, they should come home and look after the house and the children as a team. It's not a 24/7 job to be a stay-at-home mum. It's a 8 hours plus commute time to be a stay-at-home mum. And I think a lot of people forget that. And it's important. It's really important to remember that, to advocate for that as well. And so as I've seen my competitors get higher in the ranks, and they get, like, I guess, further along in their relationships as well, like you see them getting married, you see them having babies, and just reminding them to make sure that they go in and have that. It can be a conversation, but perhaps even before you get pregnant, have that conversation. When the baby comes, what are we going to do? How are we going to manage the child caring duties?
Yeah, that's super valid. And you see it a lot. You see a lot of passenger parents. It's like, right, it's like, well, I'm at work, so when I get home, I get to chill. And it's like,
I go and work 5 days a week. You get to stuff around at home, so you should do work all the time.
But I think that's a really good insight.
I was a stay-at-home mum for 2 years with my first baby.
Yeah.
But that was not a pleasant experience, because the dad was just, it's not my husband, it's the other father.
Yeah.
Just thought, you're a stay-at-home mum, you can go and look after the child at all times. I can do whatever I want. Because you're in charge of the child every single day, every hour of the day.
Again, some really good, unique insight, especially for women watching this, again, because it shows how organized you need to be if you still want to have a family, have a career, do your jiu-jitsu. You can still do all of those things. You need to be organized, and you need to have a partner that is willing to help you, and you help them, and have it be this team thing that obviously you've got going, where when it's time for you to train and work, you're allowed to do that. And when it's time for him to train and work, he's allowed to do that. And it's a mutual thing going forwards. This is both of our child. We're both on the same journey. How can we do it together the most productive way? Again, that's most people would be like, oh, the hardest part for me is just getting in the front door, right? And this is an extension of getting in the front door, but it's reasons why, and they're real reasons which lots of other women will encounter. I was going to ask you how you navigated not getting kind of pregnant like once but twice, and again having the gap between having to rebuild your body and emotionally and mentally, and all the things that would come, and all the reservations and the hesitations. That would be so fucking hard. Like, I see dudes at the gym, they break a finger and they're out of the gym for like 6 weeks, and it's on Instagram, and it's like, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to them. Just that, again, that context. And again, it'll be super valuable for women to hear, especially women who don't want to just train for 2-3 years when in their early 20s, who want to do this like a lot of men want to do it. sustainably for the rest of their life and still be good at it, not just exist in a gym, but progress
So
and be good.
it's when I started training, when I had my first baby, I was 22, and that in itself had a lot of challenges. So then having a baby at 22 to an absolute dickhead presented another set of challenges. So I did not
problems on top of each other.
Exactly. So at the time that I had my first baby, that was sort of the end of my basketball career, and I wasn't really doing anything. And so I went and lived my life for the next 7 years, and in that time moved through different jobs, tried to be fit, but it didn't really happen. And then I broke up with that guy. I had a bit of a health scare in that I had sudden weight loss. I just dropped 10 kilos, it felt like, overnight. I had some other weird symptoms, and I had to go and work with some health professionals, and it turned out that I had lymphoma, but it was a really strange occurrence of lymphoma where it was literally just on my skin and it didn't get into the bloodstream or anything. So I didn't have to go to an oncologist. I just had to work with a dermatologist. But she did say something that
stressful.
That she said stuck with me until today, which is that usually you see this condition in old people, and it's something that they die with. More often than not, they die with it than of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not really filling me with confidence, because if it's an old person kind of thing, they're probably going to die anyway. But you don't know how much longer after they actually died. They could have died from this condition. But I was lucky to get it fully removed, and it didn't go in the bloodstream or anything. But following on from that, I'm no longer allowed to give blood. So that upsets me. But so then where the question was that what's the question? Sorry. The question was that
so you got that health scare after the breakup. You lived the 7 years.
How did I train? Sorry, you might have to cut this bit out.
No. It's authentic. It's
good. So I moved back in with my parents on the Northern Beaches, got on Tinder, met Thiago, started training. And I had no idea that it would become the whirlwind romance that it was. A year and a half after we met, we actually got married. Not long after that, we started trying for a baby, because I knew he really loved the idea of having kids, really wanted a kid. And I would not have married him if I shouldn't have married him if I was not prepared to have at least one child with him. So let's get it out of the way early. Had a couple of, had a miscarriage, and then fell pregnant again after that. And that ended up being the kid that we have now, which is Kira. But through that journey of, dating and marriage and falling pregnant and miscarrying and all that sort of stuff. We also had a miscarriage after the next pregnancy, but that was an accidental pregnancy, and I didn't want that baby, so it was good that it miscarried. And I know that's a fucked up thing to say, because there are. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Don't judge me. Anyone's watching. But yeah, so I mean, having to navigate all of those things, I wasn't super fit when I started jiu-jitsu. I was slim because I just lost 10 kilos. So as I started training, I was able to build up my muscle. My flexibility was already pretty good because I had too much joint laxity, so I can push the joints past where it looks like it should be going. And so I became what I considered the fittest that I'd ever been. And then I fell pregnant. And I actually had this picture. I was so proud of my six-pack that I had my husband take a photo. But not long after that, I discovered that I was pregnant, and that was the one that ended in the first miscarriage. So I actually had Thiago made sure I had to ask him to delete that because I didn't want to be looking at it knowing that there was that incident inside of it.
100%.
And I was,
It's just
I was pretty emotional at the time. Not
it's a
anymore.
super uncomfortable thing, I would imagine. I've never been a part of anything like that, but I couldn't imagine the feelings that are involved. So I'm glad you had Thiago there to support you. And like I said, I would never judge, and I couldn't imagine anything related like that happening to me because I've just never been involved in that, thank God. But carry on with the journey.
So actually, at the time that I was pregnant with that miscarriage, I had an injury where I smacked my knee on the mats, and I ended up with a about this much over my knee area, where I had a lot of nerve damage, and it ended up the feelings that I had in that area were like burning and like pinpricks, and I literally couldn't train because of the pain. And as time went on, I just got sick of waiting, so I ended up having to buy some numbing cream just to be able to train. And eventually, like now, the feelings sort of coming back, but not really. I can still tell that it's just
ongoing.
Yeah, like it's not.
Wow.
It's just numb rather than pain. But after that. After the miscarriage, we started trying again. After a couple, we started trying again. I fell pregnant 7 weeks into my pregnancy. I continued training for the whole time that I knew. I knew from about 4 weeks. I'm very good at understanding when something has changed within my body. So I knew very early on that I was pregnant. And so I continued training just without telling anyone to get to that sort of 14-week mark so that we could be comfortable that the pregnancy was going to progress, and then we didn't have to go through those emotions of telling everyone that it was there and then it wasn't. So then I kept it quiet, trained as normal, went to a session, and one of my teammates broke my arm during that class. So what I had to do was I had to go to the hospital, and because I knew I was pregnant, I had to tell them I'm pregnant, and they had to give me the strongest pain relief that they could give me was a Panadol, standard Panadol, and I had to have a reduced number of X-rays, so they had to try and get the right images on the first go, so that we didn't have to do subsequent films. And what ended up happening was that I had my cast put on in the right setting position, but because when I broke it, it was a clean break straight through, but the bones didn't separate. So it was just a break that was there. And so I got set in position, and it was a cast that went from halfway up my arm on this angle here and then at my fingertips. So I was stuck like in a right angle for 3 weeks. So no training, no driving. I couldn't drive because I had it was on my right arm and I had a manual, so I wouldn't be able to hold and change gears. I was lucky that I have an office job again, so I could just like type with my elbow raised. But I made it work, and then finally got my cast off, and the doctor said that I would have to wait a few more weeks if I was preparing to train again. And so by the time I went through that whole process, we're now at 14 weeks, and having had a break of 7 weeks, it was not going to be the right decision to actually continue. Because I know me, I only have an on switch and an off switch. I don't have a dial where I can go light.
Adjust it.
I don't have the. So I just went, you know what, for the rest of this pregnancy, I'll stay off the mats. And I got so fat. I stopped weighing myself when I got up to about, I think it was like 90 something kilos. And I was like, I don't want to know anymore. But total weight gain through the pregnancy was 25 kilos, which is of what it should be in terms of a healthy weight increase during pregnancy. And some of that I would attribute to my height as well, but some of that is also just the fact that I just stopped doing any exercise whatsoever because I can't do jiu-jitsu. I don't want to do anything and go into my little anger
Yeah.
hole. So just
Anger hole.
popped the baby out. That was fun because it was a 3.5-hour labour, and because it was so quick, the nurse would not let me have an epidural, and so
You
popped her
like
out.
to do things the painful way, don't you? Yes. Broken arms and like, how did you break your arm real quick? Was it a takedown or like a?
No, it was so stupid. I had the person was in half guard, and I went for the underhook and like pushed their legs to the side, ended up in the mount, but still had that underhook. And so they tucked my arm in under their arm and tried to bridge and roll with my arm underneath. And in this situation, the weakest link will break because it's like a whole body versus a radius. So my radius broke. And also another thing to consider as well is that during pregnancy, the bones of a mother are more brittle because the nutrients from inside the bone actually bones from her go inside her baby that she's growing. Wow. So, I mean, in a normal situation, I may not have broken my arm, but in that time I did. And so, yeah, so it's all part of the journey. So popped baby out and tried my best to kind of get moving again so that I would be prepared for jiu-jitsu when the time came. They say that 6 weeks is the time that you can continue, like you can start with exercise again. And I was very lucky in that I didn't have much physical damage from the labour. So I could go back to training, but I ended up, I think it was about 7 or 8 weeks, I ended up back in jiu-jitsu classes. And I had to every day remember that my body wasn't what it used to be, as well as considering that there may have been a bit more relaxin in my body, which is one of the hormones that relaxes the body and relaxes the joints enough to allow that baby to grow, for that widening of the hips, for the opening of the, I wish my hands weren't, but to allow the baby to come out. I needed to be careful of my joints more in that time as well, 100%. Because there could have been that relaxin around. So I had to really take into consideration all of these sort of hormonal and physical abilities. But yeah, there's a lot to consider. So I took it slow. I had some really great, I always have had great partners, but this time, at the time, there were some really good training partners that understood that I was just taking it slow. But I still had a new blue belt, so it wasn't anything too dramatic anyway. But I really had to settle down and take it slow. And I don't even remember when it was that I just went, no, I can go full ham again. But it's a distant memory. It's not important because here I am now. Like, I didn't have any, I was lucky that I didn't have any ab separation or anything like that. I didn't even afterwards. I was very lucky. I think maybe my condition prior to going into pregnancy might have helped with that. So because I was so fit before I got pregnant, that it helped me to be in a better position for recovery afterwards.
Again, this is really cool insight, again, because they're things that the relaxing stuff, all that type of stuff, right? They're things that I would never have considered. I've learned about this stuff today. Like, it's super valuable. So again, there could very well be a woman watching this who is about to get pregnant and is thinking, well, fuck, does my jiu-jitsu end now because of this shit? Or like, and then maybe there were some people who are going to go absolutely crazy as soon as they gave birth and get back in there. And now you've given them some things to potentially think about so they can keep training. So again, really, really cool answers. And I'm sure, and I'm hoping lots of people will find them, valuable. And it's a testament to you. Like I said, it's, I see people make bigger deals of smaller things in jiu-jitsu all the time. And I just want to say hats off to you, credit to you, because it hasn't sounded like the easiest journey, and most journeys that are worth it aren't easy, but that doesn't make it any less hard. So kudos to you. And like I said, many people would have just been like, you know what, this jiu-jitsu shit, I'm too old for this, so I'm done with this. Like, I'm in the next phase, that type of stuff. But you stuck at it. You've got your black belt. You've got a beautiful family. You're part of an awesome school, and you're happily married. So lots of cool things are happening. On the topic of that, is there anything cool coming up for you, either personally or your kids or your gym, any tournaments or anything of note popping up at all? Anything for you?
If you'd asked me this time last year, I would have told you that I was going to be on Subversion, but I had my 2 goes, and I'm waiting for the call up again, George.
Okay, George, listen up.
I've got the AJP comp coming up at the end of February. Nothing really.
Yeah, you're still super active. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah,
I mean,
because again,
I think the International Federation is going to come up probably April, as it does most years. AJP is going to announce a few more, but like I compete because I love it, not because I want to win. And I think that mentality is a bit detrimental in the fact that like I go into the competition just going, yeah, fuck, I'm going to have fun. But you know, my opponents maybe go in and have that mindset of I'm going to win, and then they do win because I'm just there to have fun.
No, it's not detrimental at all. I'm the complete opposite. So I don't do them because they're fun. I do them because I want to win, and I never ever have fun, whether I win or not. So trust me, as someone who's on the other end of the fence, I wish I was able to let go and just have a good time like you seemingly can.
I still can't let go. I cannot let go. And I can't do my gym game is not my competition game. I can't do what I do in the gym at the competition, which is one of my biggest frustrations. And again, that could be a mindset thing. So if I really learn to just go in and have a nice time, perhaps I could finally let go. But there is an element of, yes, I want to win. But when I'm entering, I'm not completing my registration because I think I'm going to win. I'm completing my registration because it's something to work towards. Then at the end, it'll be a fun day.
Yeah, that's a wholesome and very pure reason to compete, and I think a lot of people don't feel that way, and they definitely I think it's a lot more heavy and negative for a lot of people. So again, that might very well be some black belt traits from you, maybe some stuff from all the challenges you've gone through also maybe helps you give a bit more of a mature context and lens to look through the competing. So other than those things coming up,
it could also be because I'm older.
You're just wise. You're not old. Wise. Yeah. So no problem at all. So other than those tournaments, anything else coming up for you that's exciting or anything like anything for Tiago?
I don't know. I have problems with memory recall.
Yeah, it's fine.
So
I just like to give people the opportunity to plug anything they've got coming up, just in case they wanted to, or in case they wanted to send a message to George about getting back on a super fight show. So,
I mean, George, yes, I'd love to be on Subversion again. I'm going to cut this part of the recording and send it to him as a message because he loves to hear from me. But no, I don't have anything else coming up that I can think of. And so another thing that I can add to my experience is that I also have ADHD and autism. So I am not, I mean, probably the majority of the jiu-jitsu community has neurospiciness.
This superpower.
When it comes to trying to remember things, it's not a memory superpower.
No, it's not.
It's a hindrance. So I right now can't think of anything else that I'm working on.
And people don't need tournaments to be working towards. Just training is just as good anyway, and just living life and
like it's nice to just live life for a little while. And Christmas was good because I knew I had AJP coming up. I put my name down for I registered, but I didn't complete my registration, so it was just kind of sitting there to get a feel for if anybody was going to compete. To register as well, because back to that story of I would put my name down and no one would register. Yeah. I don't want to be doing that so many times because I hate life admin. It's hard for me. So so I put my name down and went through Christmas, and I ate all the cheese. I drank all the margaritas. I actually
Good.
I put on like 5 kilos, which is great because a week later 3 had come off, and I was very happy about that. So now I'm still
Beautiful.
working towards my AJP weight. And
Excellent.
just the other day, one of the local Sydney guys, Winston Hong, he posted a reminder for his gym students to register for the early bird pricing for AJP, and it was a good reminder to me to go and pay. So I did. And the biggest surprise for me is when I went there, I was really happy because there was 4 people with myself registered for the division, and because AJP is unique in that the females, they have brown and black belts for that division. They don't have separate brown or separate black. It's a combined belt. So when I went in there and I saw my usual opponent, Nikki, as well as 2 new names, I was really excited because it means that there's still women coming up through the ranks and not
100%.
letting life get in the way of their jiu-jitsu journey. So I was really happy about that. And I finished my story from before that I couldn't remember. So
no, it's all come full circle and has worked out perfectly.
Yes.
Is there anyone? I'm assuming your husband will be one of these people, but is there anyone that you would, who potentially might see this through sharing on social media or whatever, that you would like to thank? It doesn't have to be purely jiu-jitsu related. It could be someone who helped you, a friend that kept you motivated along the way. Maybe they don't train. It could be anyone. But are there any thank yous you want to hand out? Because I like to give this opportunity to people because unless you're a celebrity or you're on getting interviewed all the time, you don't get this opportunity too often. So
I am a celebrity.
There you go. This is only going to this huge podcast is going to only make you rise. So I hope you're ready for the incoming sponsorship offers.
I mean, obviously, I'm quite thankful to Thiago for everything that he's taught me along the way, his support, his guidance, his coaching, his mentorship. He's one of those jiu-jitsu nerds that actually gets in and studies the game, and he does this really great thing, and it's great, it very sarcastically at the time, but not in hindsight, because he'll, as soon as I've had my competition match, he will tell me, these are the things that you did wrong and how to improve on them. And I'll go, fuck off. I don't want to hear from you. I'm dirty about the fact that I just away. But later on, I can reflect on the things that he said if I remember it. But he will also remember it and be like, okay, are you in the headspace to talk about it yet? And so when I am, he'll remind me about things that I can do to avoid those situations again. I'm thankful for his leadership and guidance along the way, because he's been there with me every step. I would also thank my personal trainer, who's also my very good friend, Renato. He has his personal training business that he runs, again, on the Northern Beaches, and so he's also a training partner. He's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He's been doing personal training for over 10 years. He's been doing jiu-jitsu for 6-ish years, maybe. He recently was awarded his purple belt, but the unique vision that Renato can bring to my personal training sessions is that he knows the kind of movements that I need to be strong in to help it work for my game. And so he every week has a different workout for me, so that I don't get bored, because boredom and ADHD don't really get along. No, and but he also is really adamant in making sure that I'm performing the movements to the best of my ability, working around any injuries that I have or any physical differences that I have. Hashtag long femur gang.
Long femur gang.
I look really awkward, and I feel really awkward doing things like squats and things like that, because I do have such long femurs. They're a hindrance when you want to do squats and things like that. They're annoying. So he works around my annoyances.
That's awesome.
And injuries and everything. So yeah, I'm thankful that I have his support, his guidance, his coaching, and he's not just available for that 1 hour that we spend every Saturday morning. He's available at all times, and he takes the time. Yeah, and he uses the week to create my program. He spends the time to understand what my goals are. He understands what it's like to be a jiu-jitsu player, but also a competitor, because he also competes as well. He's constantly improving his knowledge around personal training, around nutrition, around anything that could help with what we do, even like mobility sessions as well, so that we can be the best athlete for what it is that we want to be working on. So, I don't use him for all the things that he can offer, but I know they're there if I need it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah, super thankful to Renato for being part of my jiu-jitsu journey.
It sounds like you're in a good space with your training and your life, and you've got good positive people around you, and it sounds like the gym's going well and your family's going well and your health is going well. So I'm really, really glad to hear that. That's this has been, I don't know if you noticed, but we've actually gone for pretty much just a minute over an hour at the so I'm sorry if your boss is upset with you.
No, she hasn't come back to the door, so she's fine.
But this has been really good. This is like I said, super insightful, and not just for everyday jiu-jitsu people, but for women in jiu-jitsu as well. And not just women in jiu-jitsu, women who aren't 18, 19 years old, right? Like, you're giving options and solutions to lots of different types of women in lots of different areas of their life. And I think that's super important, especially in a sport, hobby, pursuit, martial art, whatever you want to call this, where it's very, very lacking in female participation, and not because of ability, but because of perceptions and things like that. So hopefully some of the women who have heard this or will hear this, some of those perceptions are broke down for them a little bit, and they're feeling validated and powerful, or at least powerful enough to give it a go, or maybe go back and try again. Like, there's a bunch of women who have probably stopped for motherhood and career and other things. Maybe they'll hear this and I think, well, if Miranda can do it, why can't I do it? And I think being a black belt,
if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah. And I think that's the cool thing about not just being a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but being a black belt in other areas of life. You can give people motivation.
No, I'm only a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I am not a black belt in any other area.
Some might argue getting a black belt in jiu-jitsu is harder than other areas, so you can take that one.
Well, I mean, it took me longer to get to a senior manager position in the corporate job, so that was pretty hard.
There you go.
But also maintaining a happy marriage is pretty difficult at times too. So,
well, the divorce rate's over 50%, right? Like, you're doing. Don't sell yourself short.
Only a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm not a black belt in politics or religion or rehab or anything else. Don't ask me those questions.
If someone is a black belt in any of those topics, that's a red flag for me. So I generally stay away from those people. But it was a pleasure talking to you today. I learned a lot. I hope others have learned a lot, and I hope this wasn't a stressful or difficult experience for you in any capacity. And again, I do appreciate your time. I understand you're at work and you've come away to do this. So I would just like to say on behalf of the Continuous Flow team and myself, thank you. This was a really, really good episode to have for people, because it'll be timeless in the sense that any woman, like I said, can refer back to this, be it 10 years from now, 5 years from now, tomorrow. It'll all be super important. So again, thank you for your time, and thank you for the great answers and your insight. And hopefully we'll be able to chat again soon. Maybe you can come down and do one of the fusions in South Australia.
I mean, I'm open to any invitations.
Yeah,
as long as
who knows?
All expenses paid, of course, and please only 5-star hotels.
In Adelaide, we've only got 5-star hotels, so you'll be sweet.
I've been there. I know.
Is that why I haven't been back?
No comment.
No comment. All right, Miranda. Thank you so much. Have the great rest of your day. Hopefully the the work shift finishes for you soon, and maybe you can get into some training tonight and have a good time on the mats.
Thanks, Chris.
No worries. Take care.